Everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Pam Brill, and I am a certified mental wellness coach. And today we have the honor of having Dr. Andrea Armstrong with us. Dr. Armstrong is a chiropractic doctor, and she is a wife and a mom of 3 gorgeous and adorable little kids. And about a year ago, she joined me in the South. I'm also a Northern girl. So Andrea resides in the beautiful Charleston area, one of my favorite cities in the entire world. Love Charleston. So Dr. Andrea is joining us. We are going to be talking about all things allergy related. And when we say allergy, oftentimes we think just food allergies, but we're going to be talking about some seasonal allergies, food allergies, and intolerances, which is these numbers are on the rise. So before we get started, Dr. Andrea, do you want to give us just a little bit more in depth about your credentials and why you decided to become part of the mental wellness movement?
Of course. Well, thanks for having me. And yes, a year ago, I got out of the cold snow, and I'm so excited for the winter coming up and not having to deal with that. I've been a chiropractor. I graduated in 2009 from chiropractic school. I started my own business. I had 2 clinics and loved it. I had a primarily like pediatric and family practice. And I also have a certification in nutrition. I just think it's, obviously everything goes together, right? We can't just look at one thing. And about almost 4 years now ago, I had a friend come to me and kind of chat about Amari, right? And what they were doing here, what they were going to be doing, because it was before the company even launched. And I don't want to get into that story too much because I know that's not what we're here for today. But as a practitioner, I kind of thought I had all of the answers, right? And had the ability to get supplements in my hands that were better grade than anything else that most people can get, right? And I was so pleasantly surprised and by what the supplements here are doing, from not only a gut healing perspective, but from a mental health perspective. And I just knew more people needed to hear about it. And actually, I've had the blessing since we moved down here to not even, I'm no longer practicing chiropractic, because this has been such a passion of mine that maybe I'll go back to practicing someday. But right now, I think more people need to hear about this. And so it's such a passion of mine to spread the word while being able to stay home with my kids. So it's just kind of an amazing
the best of both worlds, serving your children, but serving others as well. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. And one of the big things is we're not just like people with allergies, especially seasonal allergies. I was one of those. I literally became a Zyrtec junkie, right? Because all I was doing was just masking that congestion aspect of it. I wasn't getting to what was, all right, why, right, am I having so many struggles with allergies? I never had them when I lived up north, right?
Yeah.
But I had them here. And so thankful to have thrown the rest of those bottles in the trash. But that being said, why do you think we've seen such a rise in allergies? But more specifically, I think we've seen such a over a 50% increase, I think I read, of food intolerances, right? We use that very broadly. We use food allergies very broadly, but there's a lot of intolerances that people are having. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, honestly, so much of everything can be stemmed to gut health, right? And I think we talk about that old adage of letting your kids play in the dirt, right? And we don't do that anymore as a society. We are literally hand sanitizing like crazy and not wanting our kids to get dirty and not wanting them to pick up germs, which I understand, right? But there are actual large ramifications of not letting your kids play and dig in the soil and, be exposed to germs. We're constantly being exposed to viruses and bacteria. And if we're just continually trying to clean ourselves and stay out of all of that, we're really doing ourselves a disservice in the fact that we're not allowing some of that bacteria into our body which really helps with that whole microorganism, microbiome,
Right.
and all of that. So,
and we see a lot of kids, like, they don't play outside anymore.
no.
Like you said, they don't get dirty. They don't play outside anymore. And we have seen such a rise in, writing on this little piece of paper, white piece of paper, an antibiotic for every sniffle.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I think there's also, that whole, I mean, it's kind of this, constant unfortunate cycle, right? Like, yes, we don't want to get sick, but we
Right.
also need to realize that our immune system needs to function, right? And if we're constantly suppressing it with medications, that has effects on it later on, right? And so we need to let our bodies deal with things sometimes and let them go through some things,
Right.
and populate some of these, bacteria and viruses, and learn how to get over them.
Right. And what do you think about, like, and I know families are so busy that we're looking for a quick fix. We're looking for, like, immediate gratification. So we've seen such a rise in the consumption of processed foods too.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel in these foods are becoming so much more similar in their background makeup, right?
Yeah.
How do you think, and we have a less variety of food sources as well. How do you think that is affecting the rise in numbers of allergies?
Well, I think it's one of those things where we're dealing with proteins that aren't actually like like man grown proteins anymore, right? They're manufactured. It's kind of scary when you go down that rabbit hole. And so our bodies were built and created to, be in this situation where we're eating vegetables that were grown in soil that, that we do ourselves, for that matter. And then, when we go to a place where we're literally doing that in a lab, we're seeing a lot of issues because our bodies aren't used to that foreign protein. Right. So we're seeing that because of it.
Right. And when you grew up and when I grew up, I didn't know anybody with allergies, food or otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes back to your point of what you just said. Our food source is so compromised now that I think I read 1 in 6 people have an allergy of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That's like over 50 million people in the US suffer from allergies. That's like a massive increase, over 50% increase in food sensitivities because of what you just said.
Yep. Yeah. I was talking to my kids about it the other day because, at lunch now they have a table for the kids who have nut allergies, or like the entire, class can't bring in, certain things for snacks, or, and we just never had that, maybe 1 or 2. But it just absolutely was not as prevalent as it is now.
Right. It was very rare, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that being said, I know that you have firsthand experience with helping children even and adults get over, if you will, those food sensitivities so that they can live a more normal life. Because I know also from firsthand experience with a family member that when you have a food allergy or food sensitivity, you can struggle just going out to dinner.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So give me some examples of how you have helped not only children, but adults, like, move past and become desensitized.
Sure. Well, I think it's really interesting to most people. We kind of see these top allergens, right? Gluten, dairy, peanuts, that kind of stuff, right? I encourage people when they're starting on their journey, if they don't really know exactly what their, issues are and their actual allergies or sensitivities are, to get a blood test, right? Ask your physician to really know what you're dealing with, right? But the exciting part is, regardless of what you're dealing with, there are some things that you can do to kind of help heal your body in order to help kind of get over some of those, for sure, sensitivities and even some allergies. I've got an amazing story with a woman I worked with that had anaphylactic allergies to some foods, and she doesn't anymore. So that's really exciting. However, you know, when we talk about leaky gut, I think a lot of people have heard that phrase, right? I don't think a lot of people know what it means. So to give you a little bit of understanding, the lining in your gut, right, is supposed to have these junctions in them, and they're supposed to be nice and tight. So when you eat something, you ingest something, it is going through your digestive tract, right? There's nutrients pulled out and vitamins pulled out, but then the majority of like the larger proteins stay in, right, and move through our digestive tract. When we have leaky gut, right, when we are exposed to chemicals, that's another big one, right? We are spraying everything with chemicals. When, you know, we are not eating properly and we're kind of assaulting that lining a lot, we can get some larger holes in there. And what happens then is that the proteins leak out into the rest of the body, and then our immune system attacks it because it's foreign, right? And so doing some healing on a gut level will really help tighten up those junctions and make sure those holes aren't there, and make sure that we're actually, you know, the process of digestion is happening appropriately, right? And so that is something, again, to find a good protocol that works. Amiry has truly put together, you know, this synergistic protocol that has worked better than anything I have ever tried in my many years of working with people. You know, so really kind of, you know, healing from the inside. You talked about it at the beginning with Zyrtec. And then this is where I think for me, this whole concept made so much sense, because as a chiropractor, right, my goal was to help people get better by finding out what was actually wrong and taking care of it, right? All of those medications are a Band-Aid, right? Your body is not missing Zyrtec. Right. That's not what the problem is. So if we can foundationally figure out what is going on and help it, we see a lot of those things start to subside.
Right. Yeah. So we're getting to the why, right? We're getting to why are we, and what can we do truly to prevent, versus we want to be preventative versus symptomatic, right? We don't want to treat a symptom. We want to be preventative before we even have to prevent symptoms.
Right. And the other thing that's really important, you know, we kind of talked about our food sources. I mean, a lot of people have issues with gluten because the wheat that is used right now is nothing like what it was, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
So really, you have to be careful about what you are choosing to eat. But the exciting part is that if you can do some healing and you can really make sure that your system is working the way it was created to work, there you can have that stuff in moderation, and it's not going to affect you.
Exactly. So that being said, we know that there is a direct link, right, between a healthy gut and our risk, or unhealthy gut, right, and our risk of developing allergies, right?
Yeah, and even, you know, even seasonal allergies, right? Seasonal allergies are an overstimulation of the immune system.
Right.
So what that, you know, that is your immune system is basically on overdrive, because again, it's being assaulted constantly, and it's constantly being on because we have these leaky gut issues. Our gut isn't healthy. We don't have the bacteria, on and on and on, right? And so it then makes us, you know, have issues with any little thing we come in contact with. Instead of dealing with it, it's kind of heightened, if you will.
Right. Yeah. I read a report where science is like literally leading in the direction where they're convinced finally that the gut bacteria will be a treatment for allergies in the future.
Gut health is going to be a treatment for pretty much everything in the future.
Everything, yeah.
It's just where it's going, right? And it's where even the pharmaceutical industries are looking at, right? And so for me, that's why I'm so passionate about talking about what we're doing here holistically, because eventually people are going to have the option to do this in a pharmaceutical way, right? But we know that that comes with side effects. So if we can have this conversation with more people and let them know that there's a natural way to do the same thing that's going to be offered to them eventually in a pharmaceutical way. I just feel like we, need to be shouting it from the rooftops.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, we appreciate all the information. If you guys have any questions at all, drop them below and we will get to them. Let me look in the comments a little bit and see, Andrea, if we have any questions specifically. Yeah. One viewer was like, thank you for explaining the leaky gut, how it impacts our health. Yeah. It's a highly, so many people have it.
Oh,
and don't know it. I know
honestly, until it becomes, I always used to speak in my practice, pain is not the first thing to happen, right? Pain is the last thing to happen. So once you're in my office for, something that's causing you pain, we're dealing with months or years of stuff that's been going on. Same thing with gut health, right?
Exactly.
The first time you have an issue with an allergy or digestive issues is not the first time you have some dysfunction going on. So really getting on top of it from a preventative perspective is really your best bet.
Right, exactly. Even with the food intolerances, it's been going on for a long time. It finally just escalated to enough where you're feeling that symptom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We did have one viewer ask, can we talk a little bit more about seasonal allergies? Like why? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit with regard to our environment, with regard to spraying all the chemicals on our plants, on our lawns, spraying for mosquitoes, all these airborne chemicals.
The other thing though, that is interesting as well is again, that kind of overdrive of your immune system, right? We enter into certain times of the year in certain areas and we go, okay, now we're nervous that we're going to start getting sick, right? So we're going to boost our immune system. I mean, that was what I was doing 10 years ago, right? The echinacea, the, vitamin C, the this, the that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. However, if you can modulate your immune system and actually have it primed, so that means if you have an overactive immune system, you actually bring it down to a level that is normal functioning, right? So we're not dealing with all of this high inflammation.
And to, like, for people, just so people know, like an overactive immune system is often related to an autoimmune disorder.
Yep.
So just so you know, just so they know that.
Yeah. And so if you can bring that down, and again, that's seasonal allergies for a lot of people, right? It's just a heightened immune system at all times. So if we can actually bring that down, and it's very interesting because 4.5-ish years ago when I learned about this, I was like, wait, what? So there's a lot of science behind it and just not a lot of education. But that can really help us deal with, allergies, autoimmune, all that kind of stuff. That constant assault on the body and on the immune system will lead to autoimmune issues.
Right.
That's a conversation for another day, but that's why we're in that situation too.
But everything circles back to, if we can keep our gut healthy, right? If we can start healing our gut, those, on a daily basis, not just when we think we need it, right? Like you said, we're coming up on cold season, or in the spring, it's, the pollen. If we can keep things going and active and working properly throughout the year, I would probably bet to say that you are no longer going to suffer with seasonal allergies, and that you probably will see your food intolerances go way, way down. And like to what you said earlier, Andrea, even some people that are anaphylactic can see those not be so severe at the very least.
I think it's important to, when we talk about a holistic approach, right? It's not going to be your Zyrtec, right? You're not going to start healing your gut today and you're going to get rid of your allergies tomorrow, right? There's healing that has to happen. And so I think that's, where some people throw in the towel with natural options because they go, oh, it's not working for me. Like my Zyrtec was working for me.
Right.
And so to just make sure we're being very mindful of that and taking the time. We didn't get like this overnight. It's most often not going to be taken care of overnight. So some consistency will really pay off in the long run.
So to wrap it up, because everybody in this group is either, evaluating Amari, has already been on the products or is looking to be on the products. For allergy specific, number one, for children, what would you recommend? And then number two, for adults, what would you recommend to start that healing process as it relates to some food or allergy sensitivities?
It's same answer for both.
I know.
Fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
And specifically the zinc product in fundamentals is what's going to really help with that immune system and really help with that gut lining, the mucus in the lining of the gut. But the fundamentals, honestly, is unlike anything I've ever seen. And daily, right, the stories I'm hearing just continue to solidify what we're doing here. But again, got to give it some time too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I tell my clients, you got to give it 90 days. Again, you didn't get here overnight. You've got to give it some time to start seeing the progress. So,
and the money back guarantee of the company just allows for the ability to do that, right? I didn't have that when I was in practice. I used other supplements, and once they took it off my shelf, there wasn't that return policy.
Exactly.
So I think that really aids in the ability to give things a little bit of time and see what we're doing from a healing perspective.
Exactly. So, well, we appreciate your time, Dr. Andrea, and thank you everybody for joining us. If you got value from this, please let us know below. And if you're catching this live, let us know that. If you catch it on the replay, same thing. And have a great day, everybody.